Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kim Schmidt, Executive Editor of Farm Equipment Magazine. Welcome to our latest webinar in conjunction with the Western Equipment Dealers Association. Today, we'll be discussing dealer inventories for combines and four-wheel drive tractors. Our presenter is Trent Hummel, a lead management consultant and trainer for WEDA's Dealer Institute. He'll be reviewing the results of an inventory survey Farm Equipment and WEDA conducted this fall. Before he gets started with his presentation, just a couple of housekeeping items. On your screen, there's a control panel with a Q&A icon. You can submit questions here at any time during the presentation, and we will try to answer as many of your questions as possible following Trent's presentation. And then if for any reason your connection or even ours seems like it has failed and the webinar has been interrupted, just go back to the email you received earlier telling you how to join the webinar, and you can re-enter that way. All right, we're ready to get started. Thanks again for joining us, and take it away, Trent.
Okay, hello everybody, and thanks for joining us today. So this study was, I guess, propped by a number of dealers that approached the association and said, we have a problem with used inventory. We keep doing the same repetitive mistakes over and over and over. Can you do something about it and create a process or a study based on what's going on out there and what we should do going forward? We need to have more data. So in this study that, well, Kim did it in November, we had equal a third of those 25 to 75 million and over 75 million. So the range of the dealers was good. The dealership brand represented what is actually out there as far as a good split amongst all the brands that participated. And physical location or geographical locations, it was a good mix. Of course, we had more from the Midwest, which has got the highest concentration of dealers, and it was a good spread. So as far as Kim has told me, she said it should be statistically, it should be accurate, the study results. Now, one of the OEMs, this just come up here a month ago, one of the OEMs had a recent study, and we won't share who they are because they didn't allow us to do that. But the past years, we've had 3.7 times more capacity, more machinery capacity than what we need to take the crop off. And they've just done a recent study and said that has gone up to 4.2 times more farm machinery capacity than we need to take the crop off in North America. So what's that due to? They attribute it mostly to the combine population and the size of the combines. Now, did we sell more stuff because of Section 179? Possibly. Farm incomes were up for a few years there. The size of the combines have grown. So, but that just tells you, and I know a lot of you guys got farmers that if they didn't buy anything this year or next year or the year after, they'd be just fine. They can put their crop in and take it off. So let's get into this. Four-wheel drive. So this was a four-drive and combine study, and I'll spend a little time on four-wheel drives. They don't seem to be as big an issue. So you can see where the market peak was in 2002, US 6,900, Canada 1,500, 1,600 almost. And you can see the decline. Now, I would hate to be a manufacturer because they went from 6,900 down to 2,300. How do you run a manufacturing? How do you order tires and windshields and electronics and iron for that kind of reduction when it's just year after year going down? I would have hated to be in their position. But from the market peak, you can see this is year over year, how much it declined. This is from the top, 66%. This is the lowest year. They've been hovering, the US has been hovering around that mid 2,500s kind of area. Canada, they went from 1,500, they dropped only 48%. And for whatever reason, guys, and I don't know this, you'll see this more in combines. When the US reduces, they seem to stay down. They seem to reduce at a lower number and stay at a lower number for longer than the Canadians. The Canadians rebound faster. Is that good or bad? I don't know, but we'll see here shortly. So they only went down 48% in four-wheel drives. Not as big a deal on four-wheel drives as you'll see here, because we're not having a problem with them. But the total in North America here, 8,500 units in 2012, got us down to about 3,100 total, so less than half. And then we're hovering around that. You can see where we're at here, 3,000 so far this year. I don't have December numbers in there because December's not over. And just so you know, in the month of October, the U.S. sold, off the top of my head, 512 four-wheel drives in 1 month. Canada has sold 517 for the whole year, 11 months up to the end of November. That's how big that market is. Now, this is a huge one. The Canadian market, I've watched this stuff for 25 years and nobody's ever asked me about it, or I've never done anything with it until these dealers sort of kicked me in the pants and said, why don't you bring this to light? And I've got all the data and I got all the numbers and I know how to read between the lines and what this all tells me. But the Canadian market historically should always be about 20% of what North America sales are. And you can see in these years, we were 18, 19%, Canada was, and then it started to crawl up because we started to oversell four-wheel drives or sold too many of them. And when Canada is starting to sell 30% of North America's sales, I know we're getting in too many of them there. So now, obviously, something's really backed off because you're down to only 16, 17% here, which I know what it's like in Western Canada. It's a mess and there's uncertainty and the crop's still in the ground and it's a terrible disaster what's going on out there. Four-wheel drives from turns, I thought this would be higher because I thought more four-wheel drives were pre-sold. This is from the study, but as the dealers indicated, it's been this is from AEM inventory data, it's been hovering around 3. So it tells me that some dealers are stocking four-wheel drives with intent to sell them. And this isn't the worst number. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Now, from the study, your current new four-wheel drive level, satisfactory. 2/3 of the dealers say that their new inventory level is satisfactory. Now, I think I might have screwed up on this question a little bit because satisfactory at that point or satisfactory going into 2020 and I'm not going to order anything else because I have enough inventory for next year. That's what we don't know. And I guess the pre-sale orders will dictate. If the pre-sale orders are up, well, I guess everybody's only satisfactory for the moment, then they needed more stuff for 2020. But that's a good sign. Look at how low the dealers that are in trouble or feel they're too high. It's not that high. It's under 20%. So it's where we should be at the end of the year. The current used inventory, we still got 3 out of 10 dealers saying that it's 25 or 50% too high or above 50%. You know, that's still not terrible, not great, not terrible, but it's nice to see this. We got almost 30% saying, 25, 26% saying, yeah, I got too little of stuff. They're going to be doing some pre-sales. They're going to be working on getting some trades in there because they need some inventory. So this isn't terrible out of line. I know some of you guys have got a few too many four-wheel drives, but for the most part, the dealers that participated in this are saying that it's not too terrible bad. Now, the average number of trades from a four-wheel drive, 2.5, and this makes sense. I've seen this quite a bit. I've tracked this for a while. So for every one new one, so if you sell 10 new four-wheel drives, you're going to have to sell 25 used ones. And that's pretty normal, pretty standard. Now, combines, this is where we'll get into the good stuff. This has been a disaster for a lot of people. There's a lot of dealerships have lost a ton of money. Now, let's have a look here. U.S. So our market peak U.S. was almost 11,000, almost 3,000 in Canada in 2013. And then it just started to drop. And you can see how they would manage through that. I don't know how they did. But from the market peak, down 63%. And again, Canada's only down 40. And for whatever reason, same as four-wheel drives, Canada never goes down and never stays down as long as the U.S. does. The U.S. seems to hold lower numbers for a longer period of time. The recovery is slower. And now, why is that? I got lots of theory on that and ideas, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but whatever, it is what it is, and it happens that way. You can see year over year the declines, and this would have been a hard one for dealerships to manage, but I do know in these years, 2014 and 15, I had tons of dealers telling me that they've got way too much supply on used combines from these years that they're having to unload at auction sales and dump. So we were sort of screwing up the market a little bit ourselves because we were taking stuff to auction that had been sitting around 2 and 3 years back then because we took too many trades at this time. And now we've done it again to ourselves. So this is the 20% thing. 20% of North America's sales should be Canadian sales. And you can see what's happened here. 13,000 was the total. We were running in that 22%, made sense. And then 2014, the US dealers backed right off, 15, 16, they backed right down. The Canadian dealers backed down some, but not nearly enough. And I knew we were in trouble in Canada when we start selling 25, 30, 35% of North America's sales are in Canada. And that's trouble when we should be shooting for 20%. I knew either the Canadians, there was a silver lining that they knew where to move their used combines, or they were taking too many and didn't have a plan to where to go with them, and they're going to stack up until finally the bubble bursts and we're going to have a bloodbath and get rid of this stuff, which unfortunately is kind of happening right now. Now, when I look at this right now, as far as the first 11 months of this year, 5,700 units, Canada's at 26%. 26% wouldn't make me nervous if these numbers weren't the years prior where I know that we've loaded up these yards with used combines and we don't know where to go with them right now. This would have been manageable, not when we're followed by this kind of stuff. Now, new combine turnover, as far as AEM inventory data, 4, 5, and 6 is not bad. Actually, I think it's high because we do so many pre-sales in North America on combines, and only I've heard stories about what the different manufacturers have for pre-sale levels, and you never know if they're true or not, but only the manufacturer would be able to tell us how many units are pre-sold, or the dealers, because part of this survey is to hopefully carry on with it, and we need to add some stuff to it, and you dealers will have to feed it to the Dealers Association, and we compile it and see where we're all at. But six times turns on combines is not a bad thing. I'm sure most of you are shaking your head saying that can't be, but this is only on new combine inventory and is for all in North America. So current new combine inventory, almost 80% are saying it's satisfactory. Now, this is another problem with this question, is we didn't think it out very well. We don't know if that meant satisfactory for right now, for the next 2 months, or for 2020. Will they not order anything more? Are they good? They got enough carryover from 19 that didn't sell? This is only new combine inventory, not used. Do they have too much used and they're just saying we're not going to sell a bunch more new because we can't handle any more trades? We don't know what that means exactly. So, but it is a good sign that says that 80% of them are happy with their new combine inventory. That's a positive thing. Now, this isn't so positive. Their current used inventory levels, you got 65, 2/3 of the dealers are saying that they're 25%, 50, or greater than 50% too high. And almost 40%, 4 out of 10, are saying 50% or more. And hardly anybody is feeling it's too little. Now, 1/3 of them are saying it's okay. I got to think this is going to really hurt the pre-sales. They're just not going to be that many. Too many guys. Too many dealerships have too much used, and they're just going to pull back because this is a real problem right here. Obviously, when 2/3 of the dealers are speaking loudly that they got too much stuff, they're just not going to take any more because it's come home to roost now on them. Trades from combine retails. This is funny. I thought this would be higher, but what the dealers have said from the study is there's 3.3 used combines for every retail. And I'll tell you, when I was doing combines, and a lot of them 12 years ago, my number was 3.5. I had 3.5. So for every 10 new ones, I had to sell 35 used ones. And from 12 years ago, these combines have jumped $100,000 or $150,000 in value, or even more, and they've gone up a class or two sizes bigger. I thought there'd be another layer of trades in there. So when guys are saying 3.3, I really expect this number to come back at 4.3. Now, I'm hoping that more dealers will chime in when we do this again, and I'm hoping dealers will keep track of this, real good detailed track of how many trades they actually have under every new combine sale. Now, this number is really important, so just keep this in your mind for here later on in this presentation. Now, this is one that I've tracked for a long, long time. In the 1990s, for every one combine we sold one four-wheel drive. It was 1-to-1. But then 1999 come along, and I was just telling Kim, and I've told a lot of other dealers, that 99 is exactly like 2019. We're at a 20-year cycle right now. And in 1999, dealers had to ask the differences from customers that went from 20,000 to 40,000. Well, they were used to paying 40,000 and trading their combine and their four-wheel drive, and now they had to pay 40,000, but they got to choose either their combine or their four-wheel drive. That's what happened in 99. So a customer said, well, I'll still spend the 40 grand, but I'm only going to trade one, and I might as well trade my combine because it's a wear item. And they did. And what happened is we went from selling, for every 2 combines sold, we only sold 1 four-wheel drive. Our four-wheel drive business was essentially cut in half. So I only used to track the North America's numbers, and you can see some of these years we were selling, 6.7 for every 10 units, or 67 unit four-wheel drives for every 100 combines. What was going on in these years is we had non-agriculture buyers buying four-wheel drives. I mean, I sold 2 tractors, four-wheel drives, to a guy that pulled logging trucks up and down an icy mountain. And I sold another, I didn't sell it, but my case dealer here sold a four-wheel drive to a city. I live in a city of 100,000 people. They sold a quad track to the city so they could push snow with it up on a pile, which a city of 100,000 people has no business buying an agriculture four-wheel drive, but they did. And a lot of you guys can remember old highway construction companies used to run 875 Versatiles until they had about 9 million miles on them, or 9 million hours. And then all of a sudden they started to show up with new four-wheel drives pulling their Packers and stuff. And so it was non-agriculture industry guys were buying four-wheel drives in this era. And we're not seeing that as much now. So it's back to that 50%, give or take. What I hadn't done until I'd done this study is I'd never broken out between US and Canada. And this one floored me because I thought these numbers would be flip-flopped. I can't figure out, and I don't have an answer for why the US sells such a higher percentage of four-wheel drive to their combine sales as what Canada does. I can't get a handle on why that is, and I don't know that answer. Whoops. I do know that obviously the Canadians are pulling back in a big way because they're only selling 3.5 for every 10 combines right now, which 2019, there's a lot of uncertainty. And if a guy's going to sit on his hands, he doesn't need to trade his four-wheel drive because he's probably bought a new one in the last 4 or 5 years and it's all he needs to do. But the US is strong, and the US economy, the US ag economy isn't nearly as hurt as the Canadian one. So they're still going strong in the US, and I don't see this number changing at all. I think the US market will be strong as four-wheel drive sales. Okay, so this was an average I took from 16, 17, 18, the last 3 full years we have. New retails for four-wheel drives averaged about 3,400. This is all in North America. Combines average 6,300. So you can see just about half, a little under half, or a little more than half, but pretty close. The average number of trades, as we said before, was 2.5 for four-wheel drives, making the trades that we needed to sell at 8,500 trades in North America per year. Go over to combines, when you're taking more trades, you're selling more new ones, and you're taking more trades to get out of a new one, you've got 21,000 to sell, which is a problem right here. This is where we get in trouble because the North American market is struggling to sell. With the size of these things, we're struggling to sell 20,000 used combines a year. It's probably more like about 16, 17, 18,000 is about all the market can absorb. Right now with the size that the combines are, we don't need as many as we did. I mean, years ago, guys, 15 years ago, there was a study done where the North American market used to be able to absorb about 22 to 28,000 used combines a year. And so you take an average of 25, but I'm saying these things have gotten so big that I bet that 25,000 is now down to 17 or 18,000. And so we're selling less new ones. We take less trades underneath each one. We have to sell less. And this is in a column or a four-wheel drive where I'm going to say that a four-wheel drive gets pretty tired after 8,000 hours. It's probably not doing a full-time job. So we're selling less of them and putting more hours on it. Here, we're selling more of them and putting less hours. This is why they're backing up here. We just need to reduce this number in order to have this number in place where it should be, because we're only putting 4,000 hours before these things sort of get pensioned out and retired off. Now, I had never done this before, and this kind of confirmed what was going on. 330 million acres in North America. Now, I've gone on to 10 different websites, and I've seen 15 different answers to how many acres are in North America. So if you find something different, you're probably right. I had to back out cotton acres. I had to back out vegetable acres. I had to back out forage acres, stuff that wasn't combined with a combine. So it comes up to US is about 76% in that, and Canada is 24%. Now, 24% makes sense. Why should Canada be selling about 20% of North America's combine and four-wheel drive business? Because they got 24% of the land. And the way that Canadians farm, especially in Western Canada, is great big stuff, pulling great big tillage, doing big acres with this stuff. It's not like the Midwest doing corn. They don't have a 40 or 50 foot corn head out there where they do on a grain farm. So that's why I think it's at 22% is plenty amount of machines when you've got 24% of the acres in North America. Then I designed this Excel sheet that I could just plug and play. Of course, I can't do that on the way this webinar is set up. But what this is telling you, I had to figure out an average, and this is a wild guess, but I phoned around enough. I phoned my cousins in New Mexico to see how many, and my cousins in North Dakota. I wanted to find out how many acres are they combining with one combine, and what are their neighbors doing? And I phoned a ton of guys to find out. Maybe it's 2,500, maybe it's 2,700. The average combine in North America, how many acres is it doing? 2,750. So if I got this many acres, if I got 330 million acres, that means there's 121,000 combines rolling around taking the crop off in North America. if we say that a combine has a 20-year average usage, and we know that we all got guys out there with 25 and 30-year-old stuff taken off a crop, and we got machines that are 15 years old with 4,000 hours that are kind of tired and being put to bed and semi-retired, and we got machines that are, well, I got a guy out of town here he's got a class 7 combine and he only does 800 acres a year or 900 acres a year on a wheat field. So, I mean, it's that combine is semi-retired. It's not even hardly being used. But let's say it's a 20-year average. You can change that to 18, change it to 22, whatever you want. That tells us when we take this 121,000 divided by a 20-year average, we need to replace 6,000 machines a year. So we need to add 6,000 machines to our North American market. Now, if it's 3,000 acres, which I just don't think it is 3,000 acres, it would be 5,500. If it was 2,500, it would be, and you can change this and I can do this on my Excel sheet and adjust this all over. But what I hope dealers do, figure out how many acres are combined with your combines in your AORs. You know, just ask enough salesmen. They know how many, they better know how many customers or how many acres a customer is farming with each machine. That should be part of their job, because then they can guesstimate how many hours they're going to put on in a year, and just try to figure out your own region as to what it is. And then you'll figure out what your replacement cycle is or what your replacement needs are, and figure out how long they're holding on to machines. Some areas hold on to machines longer, some hold on to them less. See what the average age of a combine is in your area. You should be marking that down. Now, from the study, dealers indicated that their new whole goods turnover, now we didn't ask specifically for combines or four-wheel drive, this was just all their new whole goods, was 2.1. And their used whole goods turnover was 1.9. And I wish we would ask by four-wheel drive or combines, but I don't think dealers are keeping track, or most dealers aren't keeping track of their turns by product. Not yet anyways. They might do it after this. I hope they do, because it's very important to keep track of that. Now, part of the study, we asked dealerships' estimate of equipment turnover to be sustainable. What do you think your turnover should be to be a sustainable dealership? Which they indicated it was 2.9 turns is sufficient, which is, I'm quite concerned with this, because that's not nearly enough. That means you're only selling your product every 120 days, and I think we got to speed it up. I think that number, if you're not shooting for 4, 5, or 6, I think you're going to be left in the dust, because that's what some of the good dealers are going for. And there's a number of guys getting that right now. But as Gord Thompson pointed out to me, if this averaged out to be 2, this is 50% more than what they're getting now. So I guess that's a good thing, that we're shooting higher than what we're getting. But I don't think that's enough. You're not going to be able to cash flow your store in 5 or 6 years if you don't get this number up to 5, 6, 7. And 7 isn't out in line, guys. I know a dealership, well, I was working at a dealership that we were getting 7 on our stuff. At a Kubota dealership, this New Holland dealership that I was at, we were getting 10, 11, 12 on our used inventory. So it's possible. You just have to think differently on how you're going to get that. Now, this was a question that we thought out really well, and we didn't ask it, obviously, because we got just a crazy amount of different kind of answers. What percentage of your new or used four-wheel drive or combine retail sales are to customers that don't really need to trade up because their current fleet is sufficient? So that means if they got a 1-year-old combine, do they need to buy a 2-year-old? Probably not. If they haven't added any acres, their 2-year-old will take off the crop next year just as easy as a new 1-year-old would. So they don't need anything. They need a new combine like a hole in the head. And I've actually used that phrase a number of times when I'm selling combines to a guy. You know, they don't need to trade at all. The only reason they're going to do it is for tax reasons or because they need to stay in their rotation. And that's the problem with this question, is we had a lot of people reply that said, well, they need to trade. They don't have to trade as far as capacity, but they need to trade to stay for tax reasons. They need to trade because they need to stay in their rotation if they get out of it. This question is a little bit messed up, and I think we'll work on this and try to get this cleaned up. But everybody on this should be having a tick mark on an Excel spreadsheet to keep track. Every time you sell a combine or a four-wheel drive, have a category for new and a category for used. Keep checking off. Did this guy really need to buy it, or did he buy it because we pushed it on him and we give him too good a deal? Just check that off. Because when I look down here at 50% combines, and over 50% of the dealers said that only 20% of their customers had a combine that was sufficient for what they needed, I think this is wrong, because 50% of the combines that we sold went to guys that didn't really need another combine. And when we had some years when it was up to 70% of our combine sales, new and used, went to customers that didn't need to buy. It's just that we pushed it on them. We got it done, and we somehow managed to work out of the trades that they give us. And fortunately, we were lucky doing that. Four-wheel drives, I understand that. You know, we're not putting more hours on it, using them for a little more purpose. We don't sell nearly as many. Guys are hanging on to them a little longer. So this is a question we'll work on. Okay, this is from the Iron Solutions, Iron Guides, a lot of you guys call it, from the guidebook. Anyways, they put this out, and this was a very interesting chart. So what this is, the colored ones up here, class 7, 8, 9, 10, and the gray areas are the 4, 5s, and 6s. And you can see back here in 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, there was a lot more retails of 4, 5s, and 6s than there is now. And that makes sense because we're not selling any 4, 5s, and 6s, or very few of them anyways. And so they're not coming in on trade. But what I'm a little bit concerned with is we've got a bunch of 7, 8, 9s in inventory used. So this is all used. And we're doing a real good job at trying to push those out, and we're taking 4, 5s, and 6s on trade, and we're not getting them sold because all this chart measures is what was sold. So I hope we're not parking the 4, 5, 6s that are 15 and 20 and 25 years old out in the backyard, letting them grow trees through them because they're not selling. Because I'm afraid that one of the reasons we're selling so few of these and so much more of these is because we're not getting these ones gone that are coming on trade. And maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am. But I hope dealers are saying no to these trades. We're not even taking this stuff on anymore because it's got 5,000 and 6,000 hours on this stuff, and we just don't want it and make the customer take it to the auction sale. But I got a bad feeling from some of the guys I talked to that, they're just not, they're taking this stuff left and right. And when this happened, guys, I just was telling a couple of dealers on Monday, when this happened in 1999, everything in the yard corrected, every used piece on a dealership's lot corrected by 30% in a 14-month period. It reduced by 30%. So 2019, we're seeing exactly the same thing. But what guys would do is they take their big 1 and 2 and 3 and 5-year-old combines and trade them down to 15-year-old combines, and then they'd end up with an 860 Massey, and they'd have $30,000 or $35,000 into an 860 Massey, which the prior 2 years they were selling at $30,000 and $35,000. But in 1999, they were selling under 10. And so guys would have this stuff, and all of a sudden they need $35,000 for this thing that, yeah, they could get it a year ago, but they can't get it anymore. The market just corrected. And when markets correct, the older stuff, the high-houred stuff, they take a beating because the buyers know, and right now we have that problem going on right now. The buyers know there's a glut of inventory, especially combine inventory. And so, well, we've just seen a couple auctions that Richie's have had, and you can see the bloodbath that some of those combines took. But that's what's going on. When the buyers realize it, then you're in big trouble. That's when you know, oh, I got a problem. I've got to figure out how to get out of this stuff, even though the buyers do know that we have a glut of this stuff. And they get to watching the prices, and they all get to talk about it at the coffee shop, and that's what's going on. That's happened in 99, and it's happening right now. So if you look at back to the year 2000 and 2001 to what happened back then, I got a feeling that 2020 and 2021 will be identical to what we've seen back 20 years ago. Okay, so this is something I had nothing better to do on December 1st. So I did this. I went on Tractor House, and I just wanted to see how many used combines were out there. So this is the U.S. I divided by U.S. and Canada. I got another chart will come up for Canadians. And I put all AGCO, all Case, all Claus. That means Massey, whoever else. Claus was Lexion, John Deere, New Holland. So you can see I did it by 2017, 18, and 19. Now, of course, there's no used 2020s on the ground. And what this is how many are there. So you can see that John Deere has 946 2017, 18, or 19s advertised on Tractor House right now. And of that, 20% of them are John Deere, okay? 20% of their total. Now you can look here, and in our study, we had a lot of comments, guys. We're talking about 2013, 14, 2010, 11, 12 models. We sold so many of them in that time frame. There's going to be so many trades. And you can see here, 27, 41%, 65% of all Claus's trades are in that time frame. 42% of John Deere's advertised are in that time frame. This is some big problems. I'm not going to talk Versatile because they got such small numbers that it doesn't mean too much right now. But even New Holland, there's going to be a lot of trades coming. And I can remember back to 99, no hardly any combines were selling. So in 2005 and 6 and 7, when we were taking that 96, 97, 98, 99 stuff on trade, we'd see lots of 97 and 98s come, all kinds of trades guys had of those years. But 99, 2000, it was rare to find one to come on trade. You just didn't see them because there wasn't that many sold. And that's what's going on here. So how this works is if I look on John Deere, I look across here. So they, between 2001, 2010, they got 1,100 machines, 2000 and older. So that's the 1990s and there wasn't too many 80s kind of stuff on there, guys, just so you know. 617, which represented of the 1990s stuff, there was 13%. Now, so John Deere had 4,600 units, which represented 56% of Tractor House's combined advertised units on this chart right here. So, and that makes sense. If John Deere's got 50% market share, they should have 50% the used equipment being advertised. But the total over here totals up to be 8,200 units. And what this down here, this number is the total. So there's 1,400 units in this column. 17% of them are the 17, 18, and 19s, and 3,300 of them are this year. So this is a three-way chart. It's telling you lots of different things. I use this for my new and used inventory tracking at my dealership. Canada, here's where they're sitting at. They have got, AGCO only had 2 of them advertised between 17, 18, and 19. I know there's more out there than that. John Deere had 222. John Deere's got 1,000 machines. Case had 567 machines. John Deere, again, has got 50%. Case has got 26%. In the U.S. chart, Case, I think, had 26 or 7%. I'm going off memory here. So it was all pretty consistent between the U.S. and Canada as to how many percentages was advertised. Now, Canada's got 2,136 units advertised on Tractor House. And what percentage of units are advertised and not advertised? We'll get into that in a minute. But over here, you look, 49, almost 50% of the Canadian advertised combines on Tractor House are in that era. And we know that 14, 15, 16, the numbers were declining, especially in 16. So these are mostly 11, 12, and 13 model years, which I know there's a big problem with that. There's just too many of them because we sold so many at that time. Now, when I take this data, I take my used combine inventory estimates. So Tractor House did listings 8,100 in the U.S., and I talked to Casey Seymour and I asked him, what's the adjustment you make for combines that, how many are advertised in Tractor House and how many are not? And he said, you can add 25%. He said 20 to 30%. So, I know the estimate, the additive for this estimate is a real wild guess, but Casey's been tracking this a lot longer than me. So I just took halfway between 20 and 30 and said, we'll add 25%. And this makes up for the machines that aren't advertised on Tractor House. And since they're all used that are on Tractor House, or most of them are, I've seen a few new ones. And we know that our North American, we got 3.3 trades on every new one. So I'm going to say, let's back that down and cut that in half to 1.6. So if there's 10,000 combines that need to be sold in the US or that are advertised or available right now, we're actually going to have to sell 26,000 in order to get out of them, because we're going to have the first set of trades, which is another 10,000. And then half of those next 10,000, there's going to be half of those are going to have a trade on top of that. So there's 26,000 combines to sell for the US. Canada, maybe I'm a little, 50% is what I said. And this includes, the estimate on this is all the pre-sales that are being done, and those combines aren't being advertised quite yet. So 3,200, you could argue with this, and you should. But you add 1.6 onto that, you got 8,300. Combined, we got 35,000 used combines to sell based on what's being advertised right now. Is that right or wrong? Well, you could plus or minus that 10%, plus or minus at 15. There's still a lot of machines that need to find homes, used combines. And how are we going to do that in a market that historically only sells, right now we're selling this 16, 17, 18,000 a year in North America, used machines, and we got 35,000. So we got about 2 years worth of used combine supply in the ground, meaning if we didn't sell any new combines in 2020 and 21, we would still have enough supply to sell into those years of used machines. Now that's not going to happen. And I know that because some of this stuff is not desirable. When we get trading into this, some of these 35,000 are not desirable, but that's a telltale indicator. And actually in 2011 or 12, one of the manufacturers did some calculating of how much used combines were on the ground, how many used combines were on the ground. And they come up with another data point back then that said they figured, I can't remember if it was 2 or 2.5 times or 2.5 too much used inventory that was on the ground for what the market could absorb. And actually, we stepped right back into it again right now. So I don't know. Lots of guys will argue me on this and say, no, that can't be right. We don't take that many trades. But as far as this study is concerned, that's what the dealers had indicated. And with that, there's probably a lot of questions, and I went really fast because I knew there was lots of material on here. And this was question 9, 10, 11. Can your area absorb new units the OEM expects you to sell? Can your area absorb all the trades from the new retails? Sustainable to add the current level of new units to your area? And 3/4 of the dealership said, no, we can't keep doing this. We don't have the homes for the new sales. We don't have the homes for the used. So when 3/4 of the dealers are saying that, I mean, there's got to be something there. We're just selling too much stuff. We've got to back it down in North America. Now, dealership tracking by new and used. I'm hoping that the dealerships will do this, because if we continue on with this study like dealers have asked us to, and the association will do it, we need you to know what your ratio of four-wheel drive retails are to combine retails, new and used. You need to know the % of your units sold to customers who actually need a replacement. Your equipment turnover by products, not by a big lump of all used or all new, but by product. The number of trades, keep tally of that. The number of trades in a series from your new sale on combines and four-wheel drives, and the number, figure out, ask your customers, what's the number of annual acres? Ask your salesman, they'll know. And those 5 things will help set us up. So the study, we're hoping that this study can grow and just keep going on and on and on. And all this data then will be great data points for you guys to use in order to manage how many new units need to be sold, and this tracking of this used inventory. Then you'll be able to see, oh, the market's starting to grow with a little too much stuff. You know, I don't need to take any more. I don't need to populate the market with more used stuff when I know there isn't a market big enough for that. But those are the kind of things we'd just love to see dealers do that would help us put this together. And this is just only for your benefit as a dealer that sells combines and four-wheel drives. And with that, this, as at the convention, this was your comments and thoughts. I mean, this is an open discussion. We really want this to run across North America and get dealers really thinking and talking about what do we need to do? What should happen in this market? So, Kim, with that, is there any questions that we can go after?
Yeah, we have a few. The first question, and we might only be able to answer this from a new perspective, but are TwoTrack Tractors included in the industry four-wheel drive numbers?
Some of them are, some of them aren't, I believe. So,
okay.
Like a John Deere, I think an 8R would be labeled in the high horsepower tractors, and a 9R would be labeled in the four-wheel drive. I think this is AEM does this, and AEM is the people that compile all this data, feed it back to the manufacturers, and that's how you get your market share reports.
Right. Okay. And then is the association going to continue gathering this type of data and distributing it?
Well, we'll do it if the dealers want it. If there's a hunger for it and we can get enough dealers participating, we hope every dealer participates. And we'll send you a list of things we want you to track, and then we'll do it every year, or we can do it every quarter, however it wants to be done. I had a dealer, I had Mark Taylor from Plains Ag in North Dakota send me an app, and I wondered if we couldn't set up that app so dealers could just load the app, and then automatically it populates the study, and we can just feed it right back to you that fast. It's a great opportunity for everybody to learn. So
yeah, that'd be interesting to see. And then do you have any comments on new combine sales being severely affected due to the reality of the true value of 2012, 13, and 14 model year combines?
Well, the true value of 2012, 13, and 14, I know what he's going after on that. He's saying that the value is sinking out of sight, but that's because of supply and demand. And I mean, I'll go a little sideways on this question, but the U.S. Farm gate receipts are going to be every bit as high as they have been for a number of years here, because the U.S. government is sending out these big old checks, and when they hit the farmer will be okay. So, and the U.S. doesn't have nearly the issue Canada does. So I think, yeah, there's some problems with the pricing on it, but it's because of the volume that the volume that we sold in 2012, 13, and 14. We have taken those back on trade on a 5-year, 6-year cycle, and now we have too much volume on our lots. The problem isn't the pricing the reason the price on the 12s and 13s are low right now, guys, is because of us, not because of the farmer, not because anything else. We have overloaded our yards with too much inventory. If we had been at a healthy inventory that was manageable, those prices wouldn't sink out of sight. It's because we overburdened ourselves. The farmers are still buying. I go to Ritchie Brothers. They're still sticking up their hand, writing out checks. It's us. And the farmer, this isn't the farmer's problem. It's our problem. The farmer still only has one machine on his farm. He's only paying for one or whatever he has. He was smart enough to know not to let him, not to keep his machine. You want me to buy one of yours? You're going to take mine on trade because I'm never going to have more than one machine on this farm. If you want to load your yard with 30 and 40 trades, go ahead, but I'm not loading my yard with. That's what he's saying to the dealers did. We took too many. So yeah, right now we're going to have to work through this. Yeah, prices of new is going up. The other thing that's happening is because our yards are so full of 2012s, 13s, 14s, and the price is down so much because of the glut, we're asking for the farmers for the correct difference, which means we're asking for this big old fat difference. And he's like, you know what? My machine's good enough. I don't have to trade for that kind of money. There's no way I'm going to spend that kind of money to move up. So again, yeah, sure. The price of the softening of 2013 and 14s is creating a higher difference. The farmer doesn't have to write out a check. She's just going to be like 2000 and 1999 and 2000, it was just a bloodbath to get out of this stuff, and dealers had to lose a lot of money to do it. So there's my thoughts on that.
All right. Our next question is, how will farm consolidation, manpower constraints, technology requirements affect the number of used buyers, and what can we do about it?
I don't know what you do about that. My lady that I hike with all the time, she runs a farm, and her three brothers, they each got their own farm. And she said the reason they don't need to buy a big combine, class 7, 8, or 9 at all for the amount of acres, but she says we do because we don't want to run two machines. We can't find anybody that's good enough to run. We got one tandem truck and one combine, and we can take our crop off. So we're buying a bigger machine so we don't have to find hired men because they're all dumb anyways, is what she says. They can't find one that they want to keep around the place. So that's actually crippling us as much as anything. You know, and I just read an article in the paper, an ag paper, that said this guy's running 2 or 3 old combines, and he won't trade up to new because he's got 2 or 3 old guys in town that come out and run these old combines. He said, if I bought new machines with technology, these old guys would quit on me because they don't know how to run a computer. He says, I need to keep with the old ones. He's got 9600s. So I guess it works both ways. Now, this technology, you've got to keep up. If you let a farmer get out of his rotation and he gets too far behind, you know it's too expensive. We know as dealers it's too expensive for some guys to reach up 10 years and buy a brand new one. It's a lot of money. So if they're on a 4 or 5 year rotation, we got to keep rotating them. And they got to keep up with it too, because once they get to fall behind 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, the expense to move up is crazy. And maybe we don't want them all to move up to new, but we sure need to move up to that 2 and 3 and 4 year old to clean that stuff out too. So that's a tough question. Where's technology going to do? What's it doing for us? We keep making them bigger, and we keep shooting ourselves in the foot.
All right. And then with the market numbers you shared, do you know if lease returns that were returned to the manufacturer are included in those numbers?
No, because lease returns go back through the financing arm of the manufacturer, and that's not considered a new sale, because marketing and the financing division of that manufacturer, actually they battle against each other for retail sales. I've heard this multiple times, that there's dealers that say, I'm not ordering any new stuff from my manufacturer because I can buy this 300 and 400 hour stuff so cheap from my financing company. That's what I'm going to use for new inventory, even though it's only got 300 and 400 or 500 hours on it. So no, they're not included. Lease returns are not included as a new sale.
Okay. And then what responsibility does the OEM have with this issue?
I don't know what responsibility they have. It's up to us to figure out, it's up to the dealer to figure out how big is my market, how many used combines can I sell, and then you need to know how many turns, how many used ones you have to sell underneath each new one. So if you can only sell 35 used combines in your market, you cannot sell more than 10 new ones. So the real onus is on you to limit or control your urge to go selling more and more and more, You need to say, I can only sell 10 because I can only sell 35 units or 25 or whatever the number is. It's up to us to control it. I wrote this down here, sitting here this morning. As dealers hate salesman bonuses offered by the manufacturer because it works. It drives salesmen to sell whatever has the highest salesman bonus on it. Dealers hate that. They hate that manufacturers influence their salesmen to sell certain products when maybe they got a yard full of something else they want to get rid of. Volume bonus is exactly the same. It drives dealers to do bad deals, to do more deals than they should, to do stuff they shouldn't do. So as bad as salesmen's bonuses are, volume bonus does the same thing to the dealership senior management. It makes them do deals that they shouldn't do. Volume bonus is not been a friend of ours, even though it's given you all big checks, but it has created some bad behaviors going forward. And the other thing is floor plan terms, and I talk about this in class. If we didn't have any floor plan terms, period, would this industry be different? Would we be stocking items that sold instead of stood? Would we be making sure that the trades that we took had a home to go to, that we had somewhere to get out of this in a hurry? Floor plan terms, I mean, I've said it, if they took them away from us in full right now overnight, it would be like taking a baby off crack cocaine. You just can't do it because we're so addicted to them. But in the last 20 years, anybody that's been in this, they know that floor plan terms have been shortened. And I hope it just gets shorter and shorter because it's making dealers make better business decisions on inventory planning.
Okay, and then I have a follow-up to the lease return question. Their question wasn't about the new market. They meant, are the lease returns included in the number of used ones that are out there to be remarketed?
Oh, yes, it does. So yes, that answer would be yes, because every new sale, even a lease return, when a unit is leased brand new, it's got a check marker. It's considered a retailed unit, a retailed or new unit. So yes, it would be considered in that. Yep, for sure.
Okay. And then do you think dealers, it says dealers move, they might have meant should move customers to a 3-year rotation trade cycle and away from the 1-year flips?
Well, it depends if you know what you're doing. I mean, we did 1-year-old flips and we did 90%, well, we did 100% of our combine and 4-wheel drive business, or not 4-wheel drive, I should just say combines, was all 1-year-old business. And we cycled through that new one, the first trade, and all the trades underneath it within 8 or 9 months. They were all cycled out and done, cashed out. So we never had anything have a birthday. You never had anything stand 9 months or longer than 9 months. So if you can do it, do it. If you know how to do it, if you got a plan for it. But if you don't have a plan, you're right. 1-year-old stuff is risky business. And in the car business, the 1-year-old business, when the manufacturer throws on programs to move new stuff, that program actually doesn't help you move new. What it's doing is actually driving down the value of the used, because in that market, and it's hard to show on a screen here, but there's a wave, and as the new price comes down, the used prices come down, the 1- and 2-year-olds. So it's called flow through in the automotive industry as far as new programs, when they kick in these new programs to get rid of this stuff. And that's where you get into big trouble, is that 1 and 2 fluctuation on new price affects 1- and 2-year-olds. So, you are right that if you went to 3-year-olds, only taking 3-year-olds, you would stay away from that. And that would probably be a good strategy for a lot of guys.
Okay, and then what do you foresee the auction market doing on 4-wheel drives and combines over the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, if it's anything like 1999 and 2000, it's not going to be pretty, just so you know. 4-wheel drives, not that bad because they're not in as big a hang up as what combines are. There's just too many used combines. Now, I say that. The U.S. dealers are saying it's not as bad compared to the Canadian dealers. The Canadian dealers are in big trouble with too much stuff. The U.S. dealers, they got too much, but it's not an oversupply like the Canada is. So, and that makes it tough on the states along the board, North Dakota and Montana, because where do those Canadians do? They got to survive. Where do those customers? They don't bother with the border. It doesn't bother them at all. Ritchie Brothers advertises anywhere. They'll sell those combines to anybody with a check.
All right, and then recent articles indicate farm income levels in the last 5 years have not decreased enough to slow down combine sales. but combine sales did decrease. Any thoughts on why that was?
Combine sales decreased because dealers pulled back because we had too much used stuff. That's what's going on. It's not because the farmers were making less money. They can buy, most of them can buy just about any time the last 5 years. And yeah, there was from 2013 where I seen the price of canola or the price of soybeans to 2015. Sure, it went down, but some of those guys are still well-heeled and write out checks, but they wouldn't because we were asking some great big old differences. And I can remember dealers in 2014, 15 phoning me saying, I used to quote this guy at 60,000 difference and now I'm 120 difference. And he's not writing out a check. Well, because he doesn't have to. So we slowed the market down because we just had too much stuff spill over from 11, 12, and 13. So that's what I think. The market's always been able to buy. I mean, I just watched Ritchie Brothers sales. Everybody was up there writing out checks. Everything sold.
Okay. And then as it relates to what would happen in that 99, 2000 period for the, and I don't know how many people that are on the webinar this applies to, but for the 40 and under employees at a dealership, 40 years old and under, who weren't necessarily in a dealership at that time, what's the biggest lesson you could pass down to them?
Okay. Biggest lesson, my dad taught me this 30 years ago. So 35 years ago, I heard this. He says, this family doesn't buy used equipment based on, when we evaluate used, we don't ever do it on cash resale value. We evaluate units based on wholesale. This industry has got to get their head wrapped around that salesmen use the cash resale value. The whole goods buyer in the store needs to start evaluating based on what wholesale is. If you look at the automotive industry, they do a great job of that. The salesmen talk retail cash resale. The wholesale buyer, the used equipment buyer, whether he's taking a trade or buying stuff at auction to bring home and resell, he's always thinking wholesale. He doesn't even hardly know what these resale numbers are. Wholesale, wholesale, wholesale. That's what, if anything, guys, get your head wrapped around thinking wholesale, what this stuff is worth. What is the wholesale on it? We do our evaluations. Wholesale, less reconditioning if we're going to recondition it. If we're going to go to auction, we got to buy it for less than wholesale. Go to auction and get a wholesale price for it so we can come out of it clean, make a little buck or two. That's the one thing that I encourage you to do. And the other one on Big Iron is forecast your ability, how many units your market can sell, how many used units your AOR can sell, how many can you sell? Because you can't, your limiting factor on new sales is how much used you can sell. And stay within that range. Be disciplined.
Okay. And then why does the U.S. sale of combines and four-wheel drives seem to decrease faster than it does in Canada?
I don't know. I got my theory that I don't know why that is. I've tried to talk to my U.S. cousins about it, talk to my Canadian cousins. They're all farmers. I don't know why that is. Do the Canadians, or do they are more optimistic because they grow? I mean, I sold one combine to a guy that grew crops. And in Canada, there's all these different goofy little crops being grown all over in such a small geographical region. And these guys, these customers sometimes hit wins, and maybe they give a false impression of how the market is, or maybe they're just so diversified they can. I don't know. My cousin in the U.S., he grows 3 crops, and that's it. And he says, we've done that for 40 years on this farm, and we'll probably never do anything different. So I don't know why that is.
Okay. And then can you explain how you calculate combine and four-wheel drive turns?
Yeah, off the AEM data, I take the beginning of the year inventory and the end of the year inventory because it tells you how many new combines or how many new four-wheel drives are on the ground. I just take that as my average and use that number in my calculation. So it's not based on dollars, guys. It's based on units that are on the ground. Only the start and ending year.
Okay. We have time for a few more questions if anyone else had one they wanted to ask Trent. We did get one comment, Trent, that in support of the app idea. Said it would be great to have.
One thing about the app, guys, this kind of data that we're going to ask for, if we're going to go ahead and do this, I know that salesmen or sales departments can't fill that out. I need to let accounting, because accounting will do it more accurate than sales departments. And I'm not belittling anybody here, because I am one of these salesmen that, yeah, I just put down some number. I just punch in number just to get it done with and be over with it. You know, every month I got to enter something. I'm just going to put 3.3, 3.3, 3.3. Where if I give it to accounting and they keep track of it, they'll give the exact number. So if we go ahead with that, just, you guys be aware that please let your accountants do it, or your accounting department do it versus your HOGA's department. The other one, Kim, I wanted to say is sometimes, guys, for 25 years, and I don't know why this happens, let's say at the end of this year, combines or AEM has 2019 combines, we sold 10,000 for a real easy number. Well, next year in 2020, at the end of the year, it always says what last year was, and it won't say 10,000. You would think the 10,000 would be locked in stone from here to eternity, but it doesn't. It'll say 9,997. And I don't know why it adjusts from what it was posted at the end of 2019 at the end of 2020, why that number wouldn't be locked in, that 2019 number, but it's not. They always seem to fluctuate a little, and it's such a small percentage that it doesn't make a hill of beans difference. But I've noticed it probably in the last, I bet you in the last 24 months, I've noticed it 4 different times. So I don't know why AEM numbers don't stay the same every time, the tallies.
Yeah, I don't know either. All right, well, that is all of our questions. So we will wrap things up. The presentation and audio will be available on the Farm Equipment website in the event anyone wants to go back and review it. Also, keep a watch on your email and the Farm Equipment newsletter for more information. On behalf of Trent, Wida, and the Farm Equipment staff, thanks for joining us for today's webinar. When you leave, you'll be directed to a short survey. Please feel free to reach out and let us know what your thoughts were on the live event and if there's any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.